Hi peeps, somewhat unique type of video today. I thought I'll make a little comparison of two sport touring bikes that I own and share my personal view on them, pointing out differences and talk about my experience with them. I made a video presentation of both bikes previously, so if you're interested in more content about GTS 1000 or CBR 1000F, check those videos too. So why compare those two then? Well, first of all because I have them stood next to each other in my garage, and secondly those bikes have quite a lot in common and fall under the same rubric of high-speed touring. Although GTS 1000 entered the sale a few years after CBR 1000F, both bikes were actually competing with each other in the mid-90s. So first similarity you'll notice is the size and ergonomics in general. Having them parked side to side, you'll realize that length, height and shape are sort of the same. Both bikes make instant impression of being big and heavy machines. Some styling cues like integrated indicators or shape of the headlight or dual air scoops on the front nose cowl are common trait. In this particular case, even the exhaust systems are run on the right hand side and the rear suspension with the swing arm assembly is pretty much the same deal. The first styling difference to untrained eye is of course the paint scheme. Somewhat toned and relaxed, red metallic in GTS 1000 is certainly a very universal color, and choice of that one was apparent throughout many decades in Japanese motorcycle industry. Plain red, blue or black, you can't really go wrong with it, although some people say it looks a bit bland. A complete opposite of that are the colors on CBR 1000F. The graphics here are pure nostalgia and ooze 80s vibe. Combination of white, red and blue was a fairly common practice in the 80s. I personally worship this type of paintwork, but I understand it is unacceptable for some, as allegedly it looks dated. Different people, different tastes I guess, and that's how it will always be. So what about the riding position? In a motorcycle of this type, this aspect plays a major role, right? Yes, it does, and both bikes offer similar type of seating, with padding going into the fuel tank sides providing some bolstering to inner thigh. Honda's seat seems a tiny little bit softer, but the difference really is rather insignificant. Passenger will find more room on the GTS as the rear portion of the seat is somewhat longer. Grips for the passenger are also better positioned on the GTS as they're mounted on the sides. This provides more natural alignment between arms and the grips, causing less stress on the shoulders. CBR's passenger grip is a tad less comfortable, but has plenty of space for hands and is very solid indeed. Handlebars were modified on both bikes and provide less wristy riding position. Nevertheless, if winner was to be appointed, I found GTS slightly more comfortable overall. Wind protection works about the same in both bikes, where 80 miles per hour seems to be like a sweet spot for traveling speed. 100 miles per hour or more requires slight hiding behind the windshield. As previously stated, both bikes provide similar riding position and with slight modifications to bars or foot pegs can suit long touring trips. In terms of acoustic excitement, huge difference here. Well, no acoustic excitement from Yamaha whatsoever, one would want to say. Bone stock factory exhaust is quiet and shy, gently purring like a kitty. Full aftermarket system in CBR is louder and sounds a lot beefier. Maybe even too loud for early morning commute due to neighbors moaning about the noise. Performance of power plants can also be quite directly compared. Although old-school carburation technology was used in the Honda, its engine seems a bit more punchy in high RPM. 130 horsepower in the Honda and only 100 in the Yamaha. 6-speed gearbox in the CBR perhaps further leans towards spirited blasts. 5-speed transmission in the GTS is clearly a step into more relaxed riding style, with reduced gear changing necessity, as that could be seen as a chore for a mile-munching rider who wants to stay in the top gear all day long, using flexible torque to pass through towns. I must admit that Yamaha's engine, although not berserk in its power delivery, is still very smooth and silky. Once over 3000 RPM, it feels almost electric due to its minimal vibration and gentle exhaust note. Sometimes I was quite surprised hearing more of the wind noise than actual engine itself. If your GTS seems a bit rough on the idle, make sure to give it good service, including quality spark plugs and, more importantly, throttle body synchronization. In my case, it worked wonders, getting rid of erratic idle and giving creamy RPM climb in any gear. Yamaha engine is powered by fuel injection, which is a big benefit in terms of hassle-free starting from cold and maintenance. Rebuilding carbs is a painful and time-consuming job. With advent of E10 petrol, carbureted motorcycles are somewhat jeopardized, so owners should take precautions or not leave their bike sitting still for too long, as this will only end up in one way, and you know what that is. Luckily for me, Honda's carbs are in decent fettle, and so far I didn't experience any rough running or no start conditions. I praised Yamaha's fuel injection quite a lot, but it is in fact not entirely perfect. Snatchiness at low RPM can be noticed, but it's something that I got used to very quickly. To be honest, lots of fuel-injected bikes do that today. New Suzuki Katana, for instance, is almost renowned for it. CBR 1000F is a typical case in terms of cold starts. Choke is required and some warming up needs to take place. Once up to running temperature, Honda's Inline 4 does the job pretty well, but a bit more low RPM power would be nice here. I was expecting a bit more punch below 4000, but no real drama. The fastest I took my CBR2 was about 140 miles per hour, and I could already tell that it's starting to slowly run out of its steam, and straight stretch on the road was ending as well, so I let off. I guess for indicated top speed would probably be about 160 miles per hour, but I might be wrong. GTS got me very surprised when I took it to its limits. Factory speedometer showed over 150 miles per hour, which for a 270 kilos porky bike is an amazing result. Obviously, factory speedos distort the reading to some degree, nevertheless the numbers I saw are not to scoff at. Appetite for fuel was again very comparable. Seems to me that both bikes are rather thirsty when ridden dynamically, but that didn't bother me at all. What bothered me, however, was the ridiculous fuel tank inlet in the Yamaha. It still had the original factory inlet restriction to prevent mistakes with lead fuel nozzles at the fuel pump. Those used to have wider nozzle, and the inlet restriction in the GTS's tank would only accept the thinner one for unleaded gas. It's all a thing of past anyway with the leaded fuel because it's banned, so I cut out the restriction to speed up the refueling process. Without the restrictor, you can also put more gas in the fuel tank, so me that's a no-brainer thing to do. Ownership cost could be valued in two ways here. On one hand, CBR would be cheaper as it's a very standard type of bike with simple suspension and usual carb setup, so lots of work can be done by yourself. GTS is a weird thing to work on. Everything seems odd here, and without service manual you'd be struggling. Some parts are very difficult to get, and also prices can be scary. Good news is that both bikes are fairly reliable, and the support to get on the internet forums are just tremendous. Periodic valve clearances is a pain to do on the Yamaha, as 20 valves need checking, and also in case of readjustment, camshafts must come out for the shim swap. Honda uses very easy and classic lock nut adjusters, so no need for tiresome camshafts removal. GTS is for sure a more oddball type of bike, and you won't see it for sale as often as CBR 1000F. For the price of one GTS, you'd probably buy two Hondas and still have some money left. So with that in mind, CBR is perhaps a lot better value for money. Honda also needs less getting used to. If you've never ridden any of those, you'll probably find Honda familiar quicker, especially when it comes to handling or cornering. So which one is better? I honestly can't answer this question without remorse. I would for sure recommend both, so I guess the best way to figure out which one's better is simply going for a test ride and deciding yourself. Thanks for watching, till next time.